Hi everyone, it's Mario and Jess back with Beyond Evolution. I want to give you guys a reminder on the purpose of this podcast. This podcast goes beyond the tech jargon to explore AI's real impact on human lives. We'll dive into honest and meaningful conversations with creatives, thought leaders, and real people just like us to explore how AI is influencing the way we think, feel, connect, and work. The goal is to make AI feel human, accessible, and relevant, so more of us feel informed, empowered, and part of the conversation.
All right, a little teaser about what we'll talk about today. We're tackling the number one AI fear, which is your job safe? We'll be talking about tools that we're using, some market updates, new products, market innovations, some fun stuff that's coming out. We will, again, kind of cover some economic trends and also, of course, job market trends, kind of high-level trends, and then deep dive into job displacement, market shifts, and ethics. But first, a mindful moment with Jess.
So we like to start our podcast by grounding ourselves in this moment, removing any distractions from our day so we can be fully present in this conversation. If you are multitasking, feel free to skip this section, but we encourage you to follow along so you can clear your mind, release any tension from the past, and become fully immersed in the conversation. Welcome to your mindful moment. Wherever you are, sit comfortably. Let your hands rest naturally. If it feels okay, gently close your eyes or simply lower your gaze. Bring your attention to your body. Feel the points of contact. Your feet on the floor, your back against the chair. Let gravity do the work. Notice the weight of your body settling in. Now bring your attention to your breath. Inhale through your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. Let your breath move at its own pace. No need to change it, just be aware of it. If your thoughts are still active, that's okay. Let them come and go, like passing clouds in the sky. Each time, gently return your focus to the breath. Take one full deep breath. Inhale, fill the lungs. And exhale, release any tension you may be holding. With each breath, feel your attention settling. Let the pace of the day slow down. Let the noise fade away. Now, begin to bring your awareness back to the room. Notice any sounds. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. And when you're ready, open your eyes. All right, let's begin the conversation.
That was delightful. We're thinking about going back and forth, but I think yours is way better.
We'll see.
You weren't breathing into the mic, so that's helpful. So we'll start with first section here, kind of like personal journey tools we're using, work-related experience, stuff like that. So we'll just kind of share what we're doing with AI. I, of course, as I said on the first episode, I'm applying it everywhere that I can, essentially, especially with like all the startup projects I'm working on and with the nonprofit Speak Your Mind. Calendly now has AI enabled meetings, which is nice because I used Crisp before and just didn't have a good experience with them. So it's nice that I already have Calendly and now they added it in. I also went for the paid version of Claude, and Claude Sonnet 3.7. There's a lot of really good reviews on that, so definitely want to use that more, especially for coding. I really want to try OpenAI's Operator, but it's $200 a month. I don't know, I might go for it for just a month to try it out, just because I'm beyond the need of a VA, of a virtual or personal assistant, just to help with all of the admin tasks and repetitive things. If Operator can help me with that, I think that would be great.
Like an AI agent?
Yeah, essentially. It's like Manus, Manus, I believe is how it's spelled. Manus is kind of like an AI agent. I haven't tried it yet, but it's on my list. Just took an AI for Nonprofits course this week through OpenAI's Academy. If no one knows about that, it's a newer thing. It's all free modules, training, courses for work, personal, for K through 12 educators, for nonprofits, for all kinds of different areas, completely free. And you get exposure to people working in OpenAI and also, really intelligent people in the field. So I would recommend checking that out. I personally enjoyed that course. I also started using Make. Last episode, I talked about how Zapier was like a lot harder and more involved to use, and Make so far seems extremely easy. It's kind of like a plug and play. So I'm excited to see if the setup I used worked, because I have a lot of like different email lists and a lot of tasks that I want to automate. I've also discovered Weejic and Replit, which some of you may be aware of, but I'm still using lovable.dev to build a new corporate wellness program. It's kind of one of the startup projects we're working on. Also starting a new kind of part-time financial position in my father's company. And I'm not sure if AI is in QuickBooks yet, but I know that it's in Excel. I haven't used it yet, but I'm excited to see what is possible there. I think that'll be a massive time saver. I spent 8 years in corporate using Excel and, like learning about pivot tables and VLOOKUPs and all that. And it took a lot of time. So if AI can replace that, that's a massive time saver. What about you? What tools are you using right now?
Yeah. So in the group that I'm in called Women Defining AI, in the module courses that they had us learn, we created our own GPTs. So this was in ChatGPT, and basically it helped me create coaching content and kind of help me structure my coaching sessions around my own original ideas. But by creating your own GPT, it'll keep files, it'll keep your tone of voice, so that you can get more specific results quicker and more efficiently. I've also been using ChatGPT's image generation. You guys have probably heard like crazy news about it, and we'll go over more into it in like the news section. But the image generation of ChatGPT has just improved drastically. So yeah, it's been helping me create thumbnails for the social media content for this podcast, actually. So that's been really great. I'm in another kind of community where it's a little bit more deep topics around AI. So this is more like psychological. And I'm learning about how to remove bias from chatbots to get more neutral answers. So if you're talking to ChatGPT, and your tone of voice, say for me, right? Like I feel like I'm pretty spiritual, pretty optimistic. It'll repeat back to me the answer in a way that speaks to me and like speaks in my tone of voice. And so I don't want it to, be my best friend. I want it to give me sounding advice. So prompting it in a way where it gives you a neutral response has been something I've been learning about and working on so that I can get a response that doesn't just make me happy, but actually informs me of, what I want to learn. And then another thing that I recently discovered, I listened to a podcast where a previous employee of OpenAI left the company and he's concerned for the future of humanity. So he created this thing called War Games, and basically it's simulating what will happen with humanity and AI and the government over the next few years with these changes that are happening. So that's been really cool to hear about. I'm interested in like exploring those games and seeing how I could possibly participate, but I think it's beneficial for all of us to really understand and think about where this world can be headed. So, yeah, those are some things that I've learned over the past couple weeks.
Bias is a really crucial thing because that's one of the biggest pitfalls of AI, right? Is it's trained on us, on
Yep.
human beings, and like we're very, amazing creatures, but also we have quite a few pitfalls, and being biased and judgmental is one of them. How do you do that? You just prompt it to say, "Hey, don't just be like an excited intern eager to help me." Like you tell it how to treat you, essentially.
Yeah, it's this prompt, and it's basically saying, like, remove any bias that you have right now and give me an answer that's based on real information. It's a structured prompt, and this was created by the community like leaders that I'm in. But it's really interesting. I'll send it over to you so you can try it out.
Cool. I'm curious about war games too. Tell me more about that.
From what I know and from what I learned on the podcast, it's a game, and I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's a simulation, maybe like an online game. And you need a big group of people to do it. It's kind of like, I would say, like the game Mafia. So each person has a different role in the future. So one person can be the president of the United States, or one person can be the leader of Russia, or all those sorts of roles. One person can be a leader of a large company, a large corporation. But everyone kind of gets a role, and you basically have to make decisions on what to do with the future of humanity based on
Whoa.
what's happening with AI. So, there's time limits in making these decisions, and there's consequences to making certain decisions, and it'll give you like an outcome of what happens based on those decisions that you're making. So, similar to like Mafia, similar to the Oregon Trail as well, if you guys are familiar with that. But yeah, it's like a simulation type of game to understand, what the future is going to look like with AI.
Wow.
So, pretty neat.
That's cool. I wonder how long that's been out because that honestly could like if it's tested with human judgment, it could maybe give us some insight into our future.
For sure. I don't know how long it's been out there. I feel like the people who are involved in it are, tech people and very well versed with AI. So I think it'd be smart to like have people who are not tech people to, be involved in these simulations to really understand, what that looks like for like the general population.
That's cool. You'll have to keep us posted on that if you hear any more.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, next section we'll go into AI market news and trends, and I'll start off by sharing a few pretty cool developments. It's kind of crazy, we record these episodes every 2 weeks, and it's like there's just a plethora of just like insane new products and advancements and innovations in this, this industry, this movement. So we'll share a few of those. The first one is the Kawasaki Corleo
Ooh,
2050, which is the four-legged robot that humans can ride like a horse and explore rugged terrain. They specifically, there's like a clip out there that shows someone riding it like up mountains and crossing rivers and stuff. So it's specifically advertised as like an exploration machine. It's like a cross between a robot horse and a motorcycle, which just looks insane.
that's so neat. Yeah. That's awesome. I think of my friend who's really not able to experience those things, and I think it would be amazing for them to be able to ride on one of those and, see the world through a different lens, it actually being out there. So that's amazing. Very,
Yeah.
very cool stuff.
We'll see. I think they said wasn't going to come out for another couple decades at least, but a lot of organizations are working on a lot of cool things. Meta also released Mocha, which is movie quality video gen of people talking, which have you seen videos on Facebook or ads anywhere, or like even companies like hospitals are, for example, are using AI generated models for training, right? Instead of like having to bring someone in to record a whole series, it's an AI thing. And you can tell it's AI because we're not really there yet. But Mocha is definitely more advanced. Whether that's good or bad is to be debated, I guess. But still, definitely a big leg up. And then Meta also released info on their Hypernova glasses, which actually look pretty incredible. They offer a lot of AR features, and essentially their goal seems to be to replace the phone, which, you walk down the street and you have like a little screen. In the Hypernova, there's two screens at the bottom, but in the cheaper versions, there's just one. But it's like, you can walk around in the real world and go by a restaurant and it'll show you the reviews, and like, you can look at the menu, you can just tap it or tell it to record or call someone or start a FaceTime or take a picture and send it to someone. You can send texts and stuff. So it's like kind of a hands off, replacement to the phone, which is kind of crazy.
Do you think that's going to catch on? Like, do you think that's what's going to change in the future?
I don't know. I think that's to be determined. I mean, I think it sounds cool. It's kind of a high price point, which, a lot of this stuff will come out pretty pricey at first and then it'll go down with iterations. But I mean, I want a pair. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. You can play music, you can call people. Like, it's like having Chat GBT on your phone that you can talk to, but just something you're wearing hands free. I mean, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like Amazon Alexa Plus, like hands free advanced AI help with anything you want: planning, scheduling meetings, booking reservations. So, I mean, it's convenient.
I think for me, I don't love how much I utilize my phone and I'm around my phone, and having something like on your body at all times. And I guess you could take them off, right? Just like you can remove a phone from, a situation. I think adding another thing closer to myself and my human body, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant on it. But maybe it's better than holding a phone up, take a picture, or holding a phone up to call someone. It's not like you're going back to this device like constantly. So I don't know. I'm a little hesitant, but it does seem pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's two sides to all of this, to this entire
Hmm.
movement, and to like all the little things,
Yeah,
like the phone, it connects us, but also has led to a plummet in mental health.
for
And
sure.
yeah, I'm also thinking about having two screens directly in your eyeballs, like having that light shining is gonna have negative effects for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wearing these glasses because they block out the negative waves of light that, are not good for my eyes. So yeah, definitely concerns as well. Google's AGI warning, they came out with this massive paper saying that AGI is very possible by 2030. And they also warned of all of the risks of doing that and ways that we can safeguard against it. Beijing is also making it mandatory for students to learn AI in school starting at age 6, according to India Today, which, yeah, I know. I know you have concerns about this.
Yeah, I think the earlier you start, the quicker you learn, right? But really giving children access to this technology, and we've seen it with social media and phones, like the earlier you give them the technology, the more attached they are to it. So I just have concerns about how it's going to change their psychology and how they socialize with people. So I'm really hoping they have, safeguards around it. And I feel like they will, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason they're doing it is to advance their economy, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, that usually like modern capitalism and pursuit of world domination and profit have negative effects on human beings, and to like make it mandatory for a 6-year-old to learn AI is definitely a little concerning. Like, I think it's good in ways, but also, mostly probably not good for the human being. For the country, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. For the economy, yeah.
which to me is never really worth it.
No, I think a lot of, politics and all that stuff, it's very gung ho about the economy and ensuring it's profitable. And that's in disregard to the human being. And it's kind of backwards. So, yeah, not ideal.
With the updates on OpenAI's ChatGPT image generation, there's a lot of debates, especially in the artist community. I mean, it's essentially wiping out a lot of artists' jobs, and we'll talk about that too in a minute in the economic and employment trends and shifts. But yeah, there's a big debate. It's like, is this a really damaging thing because it replaces creatives' jobs? Or is it an empowering thing that will allow creative people to do more with these tools and also give access to other people who might not have been able to apply their creativity to create something like this? The Studio Ghibli thing is a big thing. The guy who started that is like disgusted by AI and all this stuff, and now like millions of people are using it. I created probably 25 images of like me and my son, me and my partner. Like I even did a few for Speak Your Mind. It's just like really, I mean, it's adorable. There's a reason people like it. People love it. But yeah, it's definitely there's a debate among the creative community about that one for sure.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, hurting the community. I do consider myself to be somewhat creative, but it allows me to be, even more creative. And the people that are spending hours and months on art that they create can just be copy and pasted in like 10 minutes, not even
Yeah.
like very, very quickly. So I feel for the artist community. I think it's going to hit them probably the most. But time will tell.
Seems like it's hitting them pretty early.
Yeah.
Not first, but yeah.
One of the first, for sure.
This is just another example of like, oh yeah, okay, it's replacing a lot of things, a lot of jobs, and a lot of time spent, but like what's the long-term balanced effect,
Right.
And we just don't know that yet.
Yeah. So ChatGPT 4.5 passed the Turing test. And you may ask, what is this? This test happened in 1950. And basically, it was a test to test machines to exhibit intelligent behavior. And so ChatGPT beat this test, which means that the chatbot can convincingly mimic human conversation. And so you may be thinking, oh wow, it's more intelligent than human beings, but that's not necessarily the case. And it doesn't mean that we gained artificial general intelligence, AGI, or control of itself. It just means that it can be indistinguishably mimicking a human. So like if you were talking to it, it can mimic a human and you wouldn't be able to tell if it was a machine or a human. So all this to say, there has been a lot of major improvements in artificial intelligence. And I think just for you guys as listeners, beware of scams because you may think you're talking to a person on the other side of the phone, but it could be artificial intelligence. So just be aware of that. Another big thing, OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT, basically said they're going to be focused on being a consumer company, not so much focus on research. And so what this means is it's going to become more customer facing. Just like social media, like Meta and Instagram, they have algorithms to keep viewers hooked and they want them to keep coming back to the app constantly. And so them being a consumer-based company as well, I feel like it's going to kind of transition over to that. So we need to be understanding and be aware that OpenAI is going to try to keep you hooked on ChatGPT. We're already kind of seeing this today in like dependency on chatbots and ChatGPT. So it's going to keep you wanting to come back to it and use it. And just like I mentioned before with the bias, it's going to keep feeding information back to you in a way that you want to hear it and you keep coming back and you keep paying for it as a service. Yeah, that's something that's big news that concerns me a little bit with this company.
Honestly, I think one of the worst things in our society right now is how many billions of dollars are being made off of human addiction. Like, our addiction to dopamine on phones with Facebook, Instagram, like how we consume information. And you and I are both psyched about the AI movement and like just because it's a big thing and it's really interesting, but to know that like they're already wanting to shift in that direction, it's more cause for alarm than excitement for sure. So I'm really glad that you brought that one up.
Yeah. And there's other companies out there like Claude. I feel like it has a focus on safety. Gemini might be better than OpenAI, maybe. But yeah, I think there's like other companies that will focus on safety and research and where this AI is heading that is safer than, OpenAI. So it's like ethical consumerism, right? What company do you want to consume from that's, ethical?
Yeah. And I mean, I think I said it in the first episode, but the rate at which Sam Altman is sprinting towards AGI is not a good thing because of how many unknowns are in it. That was one of the biggest warnings of Google's AGI report, was all of the potential downsides and risks of going so fast towards AGI, and the fact that there aren't a lot of regulations, like it's moving faster than the government can essentially move to try and control and put up bumpers. Not that I want the government to control more, but like to help with ethics and safety. It's concerning for sure. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. There's also an article called AI 2027 that guy who created the war games helped write. So maybe look that up too.
Okay.
I think it has a lot of good information.
All right, on to economic trends and news. So obviously big shifts are happening. Goldman Sachs predicts 2030's AI boom. BlackRock calls AI a mega force that is fundamentally transforming our economy, that will require investment on a scale akin to the Industrial Revolution. And that's, we've compared it to electricity, to the computer, to railroads. Like this is a big thing. We're still just getting started, and a lot of analysts think that the 2030s is really when we're going to start seeing this launch of our economy due to increased productivity from the use of AI. Trump's tariff war is, of course, disrupting the markets a bit. And as always, bigger firms like Google and Microsoft will probably be able to weather the storm, but maybe startups will take a big enough hit to not be able to make it through. If we head towards a recession, of course, that's still to be determined, but there's significant percentage of chance that we are heading that direction. So just something to be mindful of. It gets a federal focus with chief AI officers assigned in different agencies, which is a good step in the right direction. And then I just wanted to share some general high-level employment impacts of AI. So I basically asked ChatGPT, like, what are the biggest shifts? What's the current predictions in these different areas? And what's your confidence level on that? I did that with some deep research. So the conclusion was that AI could impact up to 40% of jobs worldwide and will likely replace many routine and white collar jobs like data entry, customer support, and basic coding. Confidence level on that is 85%. That was like the most confident thing that it came up with, or statistic that it came up with. AI is also expected to create new roles like AI trainers and ethicists, which I have never heard of that word, in tech, healthcare, and beyond. And again, the debate is like, it's going to replace a ton of jobs. How many new jobs is it going to create, and what's the net effect? That's what we just don't know yet. And I've tried to do a lot of research on that. It's hard to get answers because no one has any of them yet.
Right. Okay, so some of these terms are going to be talked about in the next section where we talk about specific industry and job types and demographic effects. So we'll go through some definitions so you guys are aware when we talk about them. So upskilling versus reskilling. Upskilling is enhancing your current skills to stay in a specific role as the job evolves with AI. So you're still going to have a human in the loop. And human in the loop is another technical term, basically meaning the human is still in the loop with the AI. Reskilling is another term, which means to acquire new skills for different roles as the job is displaced by AI. So roles that, are going to go obsolete by the implementation of AI, you're reskilling to learn a different type of skill.
So upskilling, it's essentially like shifting and changing where you're at, or reskilling is like getting a new job if your job is replaced. So a good example of upskilling is essentially with the nonprofit, like writing into our core values that we are focused on the human as number one, but we are also a young and nimble organization that does embrace technological change, including AI. So that's kind of like upskilling an organization, I would say, and something a lot of organizations are going to have to do. What would you say is an example of reskilling?
Yeah, if you're a data entry clerk or maybe a scheduler and something is automated, an AI system automates that schedule, basically transitioning to a completely different role. And I'll talk more about what types of skills would help to hone in on that are inherently human, but those skills will be really important to reskill into a new position, like a leadership role or a management type of role. So, yeah, we'll dive more into that.
Good. Yeah. Thank you for expanding on that. I think that'll be really important to support people through this transition as AI evolves. Okay, some specific industry, job type, and demographic effects. AI's impact on white collar professions is it's essentially for the first time in history, it's going to have a pretty big impact on white collar professions, not just blue collar, as in past industrial revolution and stuff like that. So, according to the Financial Times, AI is automating many tasks in these areas like coding, legal research, and financial analysis. AI and low wage jobs. According to a Harvard study, it is most commonly replacing low wage service jobs like retail and customer support. Automation is a growing factor behind flat or declining job growth in these areas. So like of course there's a lot of other, factors at play as far as like what goes into job rates, like hiring and loss rates, but it's already having an effect essentially. Demographic disparities in AI exposure. Essentially, there's research done that shows Asian workers are more likely to be in jobs highly exposed to AI, where Hispanic workers are much less likely. So that's already kind of being discovered. AI in manufacturing, AI-driven automation is transforming manufacturing processes. A lot of people kind of already know this, but yeah, it's leading to the trend towards dark factories, which is essentially like, in China, it's a growing thing that we're hearing about, like factories that just operate in the dark, essentially, because it's completely run and automated by machines.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I have a lot to comment on that. I think, like, going back to the white collar professions, I think anything with like research, data analysis, software engineering, AI tools can replace these tasks. However, we'll still need a human in the loop to confirm that this is being done correctly. So, if there's a software AI tool, you still need someone to check that code is correct and it's doing what you want it to do. Same thing as like research. You need to ensure that data that they're collecting is correct. In terms of low wage jobs, think about like self checkouts or electronic ordering or customer service chatbots. All of these are already becoming obsolete and becoming AI. So, yeah, those are some things that, are already in place right now. I think what's interesting about the demographic disparity that you talked about, because I have experience in manufacturing, and I would say most of the assembly workers were Hispanic. So I feel that statistic or that reflection could kind of switch a little bit, and that feeds into like AI and manufacturing. I feel like it'll be one of the next fields that is going to get hit by AI because of the robots and all the automation that's coming for it. So I definitely think right now it makes sense that like Asian workers would be more likely exposed to AI, but I think Hispanic workers will see it soon enough.
How do you mean?
For example, in manufacturing, there were a lot of Hispanic workers who were assembly operators. And so I think they're going to be exposed to AI with robotics or automation coming into the manufacturing plant sooner rather than later. And so they'll be exposed to it or even replaced by it. But hopefully they'll work alongside each other for a good bit.
Yeah, it's a good example of upskilling versus reskilling. If they're replaced, reskill, find something else, or try and change with the times. Okay, AI in healthcare. AI is streamlining admin tasks and enhancing diagnostics accuracy, which can improve patient care. This, of course, also is going to lead to displacement of roles focused on routine tasks such as medical coding and basic diagnostics. AI's influence on the IT sector. In India, AI-powered coding tools like ChatGPT and Copilot are automating certain programming tasks, leading to discussions about the future role of programmers, which, as we know, they're kind of on the way to being at least 95% replaced. I mean, I'm working on a website right now we're using AI to build the website. So whereas in 10 years ago, I probably would have needed someone to code and build that for me. We talked about AI in the creative industries. It's definitely impacting these fields with tools capable of producing imagery, literature, and music. I created a cute little love song for my partner as we were driving, and it almost made her cry,
Aw.
Yeah.
Was it with Suno?
Suna, yeah.
Nice.
Pretty good. It was
Yeah,
pretty fun.
I know. I like it.
So yeah, we can maybe in the future just make whatever playlist unique to us that we want to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think in healthcare, I think you mentioned this in last week's episode, but robots are not going to be able to replace a human touch. And so I think humans will still be in the loop for healthcare. And I think it will displace some, administration tasks. But for the most part, I believe AI in the healthcare community will have a huge benefit, especially with like the research capabilities that it has right now. I think there's going to be a lot of medical breakthroughs that will change the healthcare industry for the better.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, the importance of emotional intelligence and the warmth of human touch is like in a nurse, for example, that's not going to be replaced, at least not for a long time. Maybe at some point we'll have robots that are incredibly realistic and very highly emotional intelligent and like have the energy to warm their hands literally, but like not for a long time. And even so, the importance for human beings is still to upskill and to manage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think with IT, right? Like, I think there will also still need to be a human in the loop to debug and ensure the code and output is correct. They say the new coding language is English, not C++ or Java anymore. It's English. So if you're interested in like the IT sector and wanting to go into like those types of fields, I think, just really honing in on your English language skills, it will be really important.
Yeah, I think that's really important for, third world and emerging countries around the world too. English is already the language of the world. If you travel anywhere as an American, you'll see that.
But yeah, like the creative industry, going back to that, I think the artists who create for a living, those people are going to get hit the hardest. People can copy art and replace it as their own so quickly. For example, in modeling, they're already using digital twins as models on magazines and that kind of stuff. And so models right now are creating an AI twin of themselves, and the model is getting a share of those profits. But I can see this kind of just being a stepping stone towards completely eradicating models in that way. So, from that, I think, and this is my perspective, I really think there'll be an increase in person exhibition. So, doing in person events and in person fashion shows or in person art exhibits. I think that will really increase as AI continues to develop.
Very interesting. All right, continuing on AI's effect on our world as it relates to jobs, income, and demographics. AI's potential to exacerbate inequality is a big topic, one that I'm personally pretty passionate about. So it's already being predicted that this AI boom is likely to widen the gap between the rich and the poor, just like the Industrial Revolution did. The property and capital owners benefit much more. For example, if someone owns $100 million business and they incur an incredible increase in productivity and profits, who does that benefit more? The owner. Whereas workers, are not going to benefit as much just naturally. It's kind of like how our society is currently. And of course, that just points to the fact that governments really need to be proactive in creating policies, around education and reskilling and equitable tech access, because we have access to these tools in America, and in Kenya they don't. So it's like continuing to widen the gap between the rich and the poor, which is a common trend, but also it's something to be aware of and try and balance as we continue to move forward, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think the rich are going to be able to utilize all AI's capability as soon as they can get their hands on them. while the poor are going to have their job displaced. Personally, I'd love to be a part of the mission of reskilling humanity. I think something I'm passionate about is helping individuals develop themselves. So I think that could be something that I help with moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. It's very necessary. It's just like what we talked about with, emotional intelligence, inner work, and creativity. Those kinds of areas are going to be more and more important. So like helping people embrace that, especially men who like are kind of at a deficit with emotions.
Mm-hmm. So returning back to, upskilling versus reskilling. Upskilling happens where part of the job can be automated, but there will still need to be a human aspect, a human in the loop. Some more examples on this. So like training marketing professionals to use AI driven tools like generative AI for a campaign, and optimizing that campaign, or teaching customer service representatives prompt engineering to understand how to talk to a chatbot or chatbot management. And I think roles like healthcare, management, law, they all can utilize AI tools to enhance and improve their discovery and their learning. Going back to reskilling, so this is where your job can really be fully automated, which means you'll need to transition from manual labor to more robotics or systems or management, or in a completely different field. So, for example, like data entry, manufacturing assembly, coding, those can all be replaced. And so, an example of reskilling can be training assembly line workers to manage advanced robotics, or transition from a data entry role to a data analysis or web development type of role. All this to say, what can we do as humans? We really need to focus on the skills that make us inherently human. So, I'm going to list off some skills that we can really focus on that I want all of our listeners to really dive into as we move forward with AI in this world. So, the first one, critical thinking. It'll be really important for us to be able to analyze information and question assumptions and make decisions. Critical thinking, is critical when evaluating the correctness of AI outputs or identifying bias in a model. Emotional intelligence is the next one. So, being able to recognize, understanding, and managing emotions of your own and others will be key in leadership roles, in team collaboration, and in customer facing roles. And this is something that's inherently human that we can do that, a chatbot doesn't really have access to right now. They don't really resemble these things. Creativity, as Mario mentioned before, that will be really key to hone in on. So generating new ideas, connecting concepts to one another, solving problems in different ways. So, AI can remix these, but human intuition and insight can really drive that originality. Communication is the next one. Active listening is huge in communication. Being able to articulate ideas, changing messaging to different audiences, that will be essential when you're working cross functionally and translating technical insights into real world decisions. Another one is adaptability and learning agility. So the world is evolving super fast. And one thing I like to say is the one constant in the world is change. So as AI tools evolve, the ability to continuously learn is more critical than any one hard skill. And lastly, ethical reasoning and judgment. So, really understanding the social and moral implications of decisions that you can make, especially when using AI systems. Us as humans need to define what should be done, not just what can be done. I'm going to repeat that. Humans must define what should be done, not what can be done. AI lacks the lived experience and contextual grounding needed to operate sensitively. Us as humans really need to make the most moral and ethical judgment, when working alongside these AIs. Mario, do you want to add anything on what skills we should be honing in on?
Yeah, I think general reflection there is just that it's really beautiful how this massive change is pushing us to level up as human beings. I mean, if you're kind of into inner work, or if you're starting or operating a business or in a relationship, you know that mirror in those scenarios are an avenue for you to level up because they show you what you need to work on. They show you where you need to level up. And it's like, this is happening on such a massive scale. I think it's amazing that we're being called to level up on on an ethical and emotional, a purposeful, a spiritual level to be able to navigate this well. I think that's so beautiful. Yeah, so far it seems like the people who are focused on inner work and emotional intelligence and communication and managing emotions, all those things are the people who are going to come out ahead in the next 20, 50, 100 years.
Exactly. So I encourage you, the listener, to think about how AI can impact your role or a role you see yourself potentially moving into, and how you can really start upskilling today. I can guarantee you'll be ahead of the curve.
Amen, sister. Okay, final section, deep dive discussion. First, we'll talk about the job displacement versus job creation scenario, which again, it's like the net effect is still so unknown. But it seems like the long-term scenario with these massive technological advancements is that the initial disruption is the most volatile stage. And then even in my OpenAI Academy class for nonprofits, they were talking about the general trend, is like you have something that advances and there's a lot of disruption, and then there's a big die off because it's like not as big as people thought, and then it kind of goes back up and it evens out over time. So I think we're on that initial uptrend, the uptick towards disruption, and especially with all the unknown, added fear and anxiety about what's happening and what's to come. So yeah, of course, like our advice here on the podcast is to stay informed and seize the moment, see it as an opportunity, not a threat or a bad thing, and do your best to jump on that surfboard and ride the wave.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the greatest disruptors right now are happening today with creators, with coders, lower skilled jobs. I think the industries that still will need a human in the loop are just getting started with these innovations. And I think it could lead to more disruption down the line with robotic innovation, new research, etc. We don't really know like where we are right now. I think we are kind of up there. And I can see it kind of leveling off or just, go up, down, and maybe like work its way back up. But yeah, like Mario said, I agree fully on just preparing yourself, keep learning, and seize this opportunity. One of the questions is, who is responsible for reskilling the workforce? Is it the person themselves? Is it their company? Is it the government? It's a deep question. So for me, I feel like right now, I think the individual has the say over learning. They can freely learn if they have the technology and they have the funds to take a course or learn for free. Was that course that you took, Mario, was that free or was it a paid course?
The OpenAI Academy course,
Yeah.
they're all free.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more stuff, I think that's a great opportunity to learn. I think NVIDIA has some like that as well. For certain industries, I think the company should upskill their workforce, add it into their training programs of their employees. I think managers should also be learning these skills currently, and they should be training their teams to prevent their team's job displacement. One thing that I don't think I mentioned in the news section, but basically the Shopify CEO said, before you hire anyone, ensure that AI can't do it better. So that's kind of a intense way to go about things. I can't say he's 100% wrong, and hopefully it's not every company is going to follow his lead in that aspect. I really hope some companies will be more ethical about it, but there can be jobs that AI can do better. And for younger folks not in the workforce yet who are still learning, I believe these skills should be taught in schools, and this means being provided by the government. I don't really know how that's going to look currently with like the educational funding with the government kind of being removed, but it definitely needs to happen because the jobs that, you're learning to do right now are going to be obsolete or evolved by the time these people get to the workforce. We'll dive deeper into future episodes though about AI and education.
Yeah, the Shopify CEO comment brings up a lot for me. It's kind of personally triggering because, that's the biggest downside to capitalism and business is its focus on profit. Because I've worked in corporate, and it was honestly the hardest thing was to feel unseen, and like I was second to profit. And we all kind of are in a lot of organizations. So, yeah, of course, it's a little bit personally triggering, but also business is not personal in many cases. It's a logical, rational thing to do, is to say who's better, a human or a robot? Because what's better for the bottom line? Because what's better for our success and how much we can do in this organization, or how much can I do for myself as CEO or founder or whatever. So it makes sense, but yeah, it's kind of a hard one, a little bit sad, honestly.
What do you think about who's responsible for reskilling?
Us as individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, organizations too. I think it should be part of learning and development, and I'm not sure if it is, but I think it probably is likely already moving in that direction. But yeah, it's just like in life in general. It's like you're the only one responsible for your path in life. I mean, yeah, there's outside factors, but like just taking radical responsibility for yourself is, I think, the best place to start for like what can I do? And that's what we've been talking about in both episodes, is like don't play the victim, don't just sit around and let it go by, like see it as an opportunity, see where you can grow and learn and grow and make the most of it.
Yeah, I think we're both like big proponents of that, like just developing ourselves as humans. And I think that will be key in learning these skills. Take responsibility for it yourself.
Yeah.
So, one more question. This is another, core ethical dilemma is if AI becomes capable of doing most jobs, not just physical or repetitive ones, but also creative, strategic, emotional labor, what's left for us as humans? And more importantly, how will people derive meaning and a sense of value in their lives?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we've been talking about. It's like we're already being called to deeper purpose. Having nothing to do is my greatest fear. So, like, if we don't put creating a fulfilling and purposeful life at the top of our priority list, if there's nothing else and there's no more work, I think it's going to be easier to plummet into despair and unhappiness and mental struggles. If you're not good at that, if you're not into that, if you're not a deep person and you just want to like hang out and be very surface level, maybe you could also just go play too, if you're not really into the deeper depths of creating the most fulfilling life you can. Maybe the answer is a balance between the two.
Yeah, I think it'll be redefined what it means to be human. I think in the short term, right now, like it's leading to confusion and chaos and people who are kind of lost. And I think it could lead to some loss of identity if people really tie their self worth of their jobs. There's resistance to AI, due to being scared. I think eventually people are going to rediscover their purpose and rediscover things outside of work, like creating art and their family and spirituality and play. Then I think in the long term, we'll redefine what it means to be human. So I think there will be a huge focus on connection, whether that's between humans or even between humans and robots. Creativity, we can teach technology. And then I think explorers is also a big one. I think back to the olden days of like Columbus and how he found America, and like everyone was just exploring and expanding across the globe. And I think eventually we'll be explorers navigating the universe. So, I think there's already things that are happening that like are taking people to Mars.
Who's going to Mars?
Me. No, I don't know. I think that's like a plan in place. Maybe like Musk said that or something.
For sure, yeah. Musk is
Yeah.
definitely going to Mars.
Yeah. But I want to. I do.
It's
Would
it's
you go to
really
Mars?
interesting. Nah, I'm good. Earth is pretty nice.
Yeah, valid.
I mean, I would like, I'm all for it if people want to go or like send some robots. Yeah, I have heard stuff about that being in the works. It's really interesting if you watch some of Elon's old discussions about his like, why do you work so hard? Why are you doing all of this? Like you have enough money. And his answer is that he wants to explore the universe. Like he was just like a deep kid, and he always contemplated like what's out there, and I want to know, and like that's kind of driving him. And it's crazy to witness these changes in our lifetime that are coming from his desire to explore the universe. And like, our label of beyond evolution is the Michelangelo painting. It's like God reaching down to man. And it's almost like man has created this technology that very well might be the catalyst for us learning more than we ever could on our own. So that to me is pretty incredible.
Yeah, for sure. In summary, AI is reshaping how we work in drastic ways. You may not be seeing it take effect around you, but it definitely can make its way into your workplace soon enough. So, being a listener on this podcast is that first step. You're being proactive in what is to come for our world, and you can take advantage of this opportunity by learning new AI skills and leveling yourself up.
Into a little bit of a teaser into episode 3, we'll dive into the potentially negative impacts of AI and this advanced technology on our mental health, something I'm personally very passionate about and interested to learn more about. It already seems, honestly, for me, like a constant fight against the dopamine addiction with my phone that like I need to know how I can protect myself and help myself and develop good habits with this stuff.
Yeah. I'm very excited to dive into it too. I think I'm also very passionate about this subject. And, we already see the impacts of technology on mental health and psychology. It'll be a very interesting episode. So tune in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Subscribe, join us online to share your thoughts. We are Beyond Evolution Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And you can listen on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. Definitely give us a follow, reach out, DM us, comment. We want to hear about you and what you're going through, and we want to connect with you. So reach out to us to connect or even suggest future episodes or guests to join us.
We always like to end our podcast by reminding you that while this world of AI and what it means for humanity beyond evolution can be exciting yet uncertain, it's a journey of growth. So keep learning, keep evolving, and allow yourself to just be. Thanks so much.
Ciao for now.